Sactown Sports.
Ready to go out to your old stomping grounds, Strapes? Boston?
Yeah. I thought they showed a replay on the A's game. Yeah, I wish I was out there for this series. Is this the first Knicks Celtics series since Carmelo?
Let's find out.
Against KG and them?
Ian Begley, nice enough to join us. Ian Begley, of course, Knicks Nets, SNY TV, also host of The Putback. How are you today, Ian? Can you confirm Mr. Draper's query?
I can confirm it. Google can confirm it.
Okay.
Basketball Reference can confirm it. Yes, this is the first one since that J.R. Smith elbow to Jason Terry. I remember that one. That extended the series a little bit. That was a fun series.
Is that's the series that ended that era for the Celtics, if I'm correct?
It did.
Yeah.
It also ended that Nick era, the brief Nick era of Jason Kidd and all those guys. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Nick eras, maybe where, this is just the beginning of a new one. But we want to, before we get to that, Ian, we really are done to ask you about Scott Perry. Once again, new GM of the Kings. He was briefly before then. He went to New York. What kind of GM are the Kings getting in former Nick GM Scott Perry?
Very organized, very detail-oriented, someone who, in New York, inherited a tough situation. I mean, he came on board here in the middle of Carmelo Anthony trade talks with the Houston Rockets, where the Knicks were close to agreeing on a deal that would have brought a lot of money back, a lot of dead money. And he came in and he paused the negotiations, and he ultimately made a deal where the Knicks were able to get a draft pick back that turned into Mitchell Robinson. And then in free agency, he was always signing short-term deals with team options for the most part, trying to maintain flexibility. So I think that's what he did well, really well in New York. And I wonder if he's going to take the same approach there. But I do know that just a diligent worker, meticulous, detail-oriented. And it's going to be interesting, too, because in New York, he was working first under team president Steve Mills and then under team president Leon Rose. And here he gets to run the show and steer the ship. So I think you guys are in pretty good hands.
Ian Begley joining us. And Ian, we got some breaking news here in Sacramento. I don't know if it's worth the stinger, Jay, or not, but the Sacramento Kings announcing that B.J. Armstrong will come on as assistant general manager to Scott Perry. So it's official now. Do you know anything about BJ, and what do you think of this tandem here, BJ and Scott Perry working together?
Yes, BJ, obviously a three-time NBA champion, but also worked for the Bulls on the front office side, and then longtime agent, Derrick Rose's agent. I know he's very close with Scott Perry, and so it makes a lot of sense that Scott were to bring BJ on. BJ just is very well connected. He's been obviously a player, front office member, agent, so he's seen the business from all sides, knows everybody, and I do think it's a good hire. I think those guys obviously have a long history together. I'm sure that they share some of the same philosophies, and yeah, I do think that makes a lot of sense in terms of people that Scott may bring in, and I was happy to see that Doug Christie that deal got done. And he's going to be sticking around. So, yeah, a few good acquisitions so far to me in the Perry era.
Yeah, Doug Christie, the former Knick. Yeah, Ian Begley, nice enough to join us, NBA reporter for the Knicks and the Nets. Not to be negative, Ian, but is there a downside? I mean, what did Scott Perry's critics have to say about his work in New York, if I may?
Yeah, I guess, every GM executive has hits and misses, and he's no different, right? I wouldn't sugarcoat that. Like they got the draft pick wrong in Kevin Knox. That was a draft where you had a lot of talent behind Kevin Knox. That was not the right pick. Didn't turn out to be the right pick. They got the head coach wrong in David Fizdale, and that didn't work for a million different reasons, but ultimately it was not the right call. And again, Perry was working in tandem with Steve Mills at that point. And I can't tell you who ultimately made the call on Fizdale, on Kevin Knox. I don't know. But the end result was not good. And so you look at then, free agency, Julius Randle, pretty good pivot from the Knicks not getting Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then, his MO in free agency was just short-term deals until you wanted to take your big swing. He never got a chance to take his big swing. But I do think, you look at Knox, you look at Fizdale, and those are two where certainly Perry and the front office that was above and below him, they missed there.
Fair enough.
And why did his time in New York end? Was he bumping heads with Leon, or what happened out there?
No, Leon, he was like a bridge for Leon, I think, because Leon and Scott knew each other well. They worked together, actually, to figure out the Carmelo Anthony situation. And so there was a good working relationship there, and Leon came on without any experience as an executive. So the speculation was he was going to get rid of Scott Perry immediately, but he did not. They kept Scott Perry there for his experience, his know-how, and he was there, I believe, 3 years, if not 3 years. And then his deal was up, and I think it just became clear to him, and I don't want to speak for him, that he was best parting ways and looking for something else. I think that, maybe if they were able to work something out, he might have stuck around. But it just became clear with everybody that was brought in under Leon that I guess he felt that his best days were ahead of him somewhere else.
Ian Begley with us, host of the Putback. So let me try to put back one of your previous comments. Ian, you mentioned that you thought the Doug Christie hire was a good hire. Can we ask why we're excited about that too? What do you like about that hire?
Yeah, I just look at the way that, you guys saw it every night. I didn't see it every night, but generally how the team responded to Doug. And for me, continuity is important. And I think that, with Christie, the way the players responded to him, his knowledge of the game, his experience. The experience certainly wasn't there as a coach, but I just think as a player and assistant coach, he brings a lot there. And I thought the results were good enough to the point where, he deserves a chance here to keep it going. And so that's how I look at it from the opposite coast. And you guys seeing it night in and night out, I'm sure that you have a different thoughts on it. But I did think that from a continuity standpoint and just the idea that he did have a good success in a tough situation, thought it made sense.
Yeah. Ian Begley joining us. Ian, we've been talking around here in Sacramento about the team, the organization having to find a guy, somebody that, everything else orbits around. You guys talking about the Knicks found a guy in Jaylen Brunson. Do you think the management, the ownership viewed Jaylen as a guy, or did he develop into a guy once he got there?
Look, I know that, Leon Rose, that was one of his top, priorities was to get Jaylen Brunson if the situation presented itself. But I don't think, look, I don't know if we'll ever get to talk to Leon on the record, but if we do, I'm curious to hear what he would say if Jaylen Brunson right now exceeded even his expectations. Because I know they trusted him as a leader. They knew that he would be able to handle an increased role in terms of having the ball in his hands and being the face of a franchise. But I don't even know if they saw this coming in terms of the level that he's reached over the past couple of seasons. But certainly that was Leon Rose, current team president, had Brunson as a target for a while. And you saw how he maneuvered ahead of that offseason to get the money in place to sign Brunson to a deal that, if you remember, it was killed nationally. And people were just wondering, how do you give Jaylen Brunson $100 million? And then here we are a few years later, and obviously it was the right move.
Ian, this is a little premature because it hasn't been announced yet, but Mike Woodson is an original Sacramento King, and of course he coached the Knicks for a few years. He's apparently in line to become Doug Christie's top assistant. That has not been announced. It's not official, but do you have any thoughts on Mike Woodson from his years in New York that you could share with us?
Well, what's fascinating to me, fellas, this is just a recent anecdote. Jason Kidd was in town with the Mavericks late regular season, and I just asked him that 1 year in New York, you played for Mike Woodson, then you started coaching. What do you recommend? What do you remember? Pardon me, about Mike, and he just said that Mike held guys accountable. He wasn't afraid to speak the truth to Carmelo, speak the truth to Amari or Tyson, and Jason Kidd said he really respected that. He said he treated these guys like men, but also he wasn't afraid to criticize the top players, to hold those guys accountable. And to me, that's, I don't want to say rare in the NBA, but it's so important in the NBA to have the respect of those players. And obviously he's coming in as an assistant, whether it's an associate head coach or a different position. So he's not going to have that same role, but if he brings that same approach, I think it can only help the Sacramento, the players, and the relationship between the players and the coaching staff. And so, I did think Woodson did well here in New York. I thought he got kind of a raw deal when Phil Jackson took over. Writing was on the wall, but I think it makes sense for you guys to bring in a veteran NBA head coach to go in and complement Doug Christie on that bench.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff there, Ian Begley. Ian, I'll let you go on this one. You got a game tonight, game 2, Celtics and Knicks. Can the Knicks do it again, you think, or the Celtics bounce back tonight?
I mean, look, I don't bet. If I was going to put money down, I'm betting on the Celtics. I mean, obviously, I think they're bouncing back. I think Kyle would agree with me. So
yeah. The Celtics ain't missing 45 threes or whatever it is tonight. That's not happening.
No. I don't think so. But the Jaylen Brown health is curious to me, so we'll see how that plays out too. So.
Enjoy the game tonight, Ian. I know you're busy getting ready for the game, so we appreciate your time. We hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks for all the info. We appreciate it.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
All right, Ian.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Ooh, some good stuff.
That's good. He's high on these
insight.
Yes. Maybe the Kings got it right.
Because they're all former Knicks.
No,
right?
But Ian's going to shoot it to you straight, though. That's the
I would
thing.
think so.
Ian ain't going to, gloss, make it all rosy and everything like that. He likes all the moves the Kings have made so far. I like that.